Hello from Topeka. It's Marley Carpenter, your KSCPA lobbyist. Last week was a very busy week for legislators as they met in committees and heard and worked bills. March 18th is the last day for them to meet and pass any bills they want to move forward this session. After that, legislators are mostly on the floor, then conference committees begin March 24th as they move towards first adjournment, which is the end of March. This year's very condensed calendar has kept things relatively non-controversial for legislative leadership so far. However, major tax cuts and budget spending cuts are still on the table. House Speaker Dan Hawkins appointed a new bipartisan oversight committee this week tasked with investigating potential misconduct and inefficiencies in state agencies. This is the House DOJ Committee and is a 13-member committee that has been granted subpoena power through state law and aims to increase government accountability and efficiency by conducting public hearings and investigations. The House approves several property tax bills in both the House Tax Committee and on the floor. The House did debate and pass with a strong bipartisan support two significant property tax measures on Friday. HCR 5011 proposes a constitutional amendment that would value residential properties at the lesser of fair market value or average of fair market value. This is an alternative to the Senate's already passed constitutional amendment that would cap annual property valuations at 3%. The House also passed House Bill 2396, and it is intended to ultimately lower property tax valuations by creating a $60 million fund to reward local governments that maintain spending below inflation rates. It also establishes a mechanism which allows residents to challenge excessive spending through protest petition and requires the signatures of 10% of qualified voters. Both these bills now go to the Senate for consideration. Two bills were introduced by the Kansas Chamber, and they propose a mechanism that would trigger future income tax cuts and establish a formula tying potential reductions to excessive revenue compared to an inflation-adjusted baseline. Under the proposed legislation, if collections exceed an average baseline, the excess will automatically convert into lower income tax rates for the following year. Senator Karen Tyson also introduced and heard a proposal that would lower individual income tax cuts. Senate Bill 283 would lower individual tax cuts. However, the bill would also eliminate several tax credit programs, including HPIP, the Affordable Housing Tax Credit Program, and PEAK. Business representatives and economic development organizations strongly opposed eliminating these incentives programs, arguing that these programs are vital in attracting and retaining businesses to Kansas. A broad business coalition group, including the Chambers and Agriculture's group, opposed a bill championed by Attorney General Chris Kobach that would mandate all Kansas employers use the federal E-Verify system to confirm employee work eligibility. Senate Bill 196 was heard last week and would mandate E-Verify for all Kansas employers and would include a requirement that a form be filed with state taxes verifying a business only employs employees that have legal standing in the U.S. Two other incentive bills were heard in the House Tax Committee. They heard Senate Bill 51, which offers a tax credit in exemption to data centers that invest at least $250 million and employ 20 people. The Department of Commerce said that there are at least 14 potential data center projects in the pipeline, representing over $15 billion in possible investment in the state. The Senate Commerce Committee also held a hearing on 2119, which proposes to end the low-income housing tax credit. This bill was introduced at the request of House Commerce Committee Chair Sean Tarwater, who argues that the state cannot afford this program, which is an impact of the state general fund of about $25 million per year. At the Senate hearing, there were no proponents to the bill, and the opponents urged legislators to not eliminate the program, but instead look at ways to reduce the costs. This week, House Bill 2304 will be heard that requires local governments to report certain local economic development incentives to the Secretary of Commerce. We will continue to monitor these issues along with many others. If you have any questions, please contact myself or Danielle at the KSCPA office. Thanks so much and have a great week.